What's up, guys? How you doing? How we feeling? Yeah, I'm talking to my co-host, but I'm talking to the viewers right now. Look, there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and I wish I could be happier. We were supposed to talk to you guys about buying, protecting black businesses and whatnot. But how can we when we're still getting shot 7 times in the back? Right? It's crazy. It's crazy. We created this platform so that we can talk about issues like this, and it seems like they just keep happening over and over and over again. So really, for all of the viewers out there, I want to hear your thoughts, man. I want to hear your thoughts and comments and ideas about what is going on right now, because it just doesn't seem logical to me with everything that's going on, with so many eyes on police and so many eyes on, think about all the tragedies that we've had. The fact that we're still getting shot in the back 7 times is mind boggling to me. It's literally like an episode of Stranger Things, right? I feel like I'm in the upside down. You know what I'm saying? And stuff is just crazy. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm gonna wake up one day and be like, oh, that was a weird ass nightmare. Excuse my language, but that's how I'm feeling right now. So, first of all, this is again by any means, guys, go to www.bandpodlive, check us out. But more importantly, Derek, Bridget, how you guys feeling about everything that's happening today? Well, the past few days.
Every day. Um, the words I think that I have been using for the past probably like few months have been like just brokenhearted.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I don't know, like literally my heart is hurting. My heart is broken. Like I'm heavy. Um, and even in times before, the most recent incidents, I literally was having like anxiety attacks, you know what I'm saying, around, I think that were fueled by all the things that are happening, right? Like the anxiety of not having any control over what's happening, what's going to happen, what could happen, why it's happening, trying to figure out how to fix it, what to do, you know what I'm saying? Like how to I don't know. So for heartbroken, yeah, I'll start there.
Yeah. It's funny, real quick, Derek. I want to let you speak, but real quick, it's funny because the day that it happened that morning, my fiance was telling me, she was like, sometimes I wonder, like with the state that the world is in right now, whether I did the right thing by having children. And she's like, it's not like I'm second guessing my children. No, it's not that. I love them. I'm grateful for them, all of those things. It's just I don't want anything to happen to him. And at the time it was kind of like I'm torn, like I get it, but like I don't know. And then we get the news that somebody else has been shot 7 times in the back. I just, and it put things into perspective for me. And I was like, okay, now I get what she's saying. I don't want my daughters exposed to this world sometimes, man. Like literally had me thinking about homeschooling and all this other stuff, just trying to figure out a way to shelter my children from everything that's happening in the world right now. I don't know. I don't know. I'm I'm torn. What do you think, Derek?
Uh, First, good evening. Um, hey, good evening, Kelvin. Good evening, Bridget. I'm struggling.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I mean, I know you probably just put your kids to bed, man. What goes through your mind when you're kissing them goodnight?
You know, Good evening to all the viewers. Thank you for joining us. This is your conversation. Man, I don't know anymore. I think you said it. I don't know. I don't know that I ever knew. Man, y'all continue. I guess it's too. I'm like a ball of emotions right now, and I have, of course, a lot of things to say. It's just
one of the things that bothers me, man, is you know, I'm online. I'm looking at all the commentary online, and there's a contingency of individuals who look like us, who figured out a way to justify the actions of the police officer in their mind. How? I think people have to get out of, like, I understand going against the grain. Like, there's something to be said about, not buying into pop culture or, to trends or things like that. But there's some common sense that goes into it. You know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of humanity that you got to have, and common sense, and just I don't know. I can't find the word I'm looking for right now. But the point is, it's like, you can't be so ingrained in trying to go against the grain that you wound up making yourself look very stupid and heartless. Because any 5-year-old with common sense can look at that and say, but there was plenty of opportunity for this dude to be subdued without the use of deadly force. Plenty of opportunity, period. So for people to try to justify this shooting as if, he posed some type of threat to these people. Look, if you're scared of people, don't be a police officer. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're afraid to do your job, then go work at a damn coffee shop or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't just pull out your gun and be all trigger happy because you got one. Like, I don't know what goes through your mind, right? Like, I kind of feel like the guy had it made up in his mind that once he reached the door and he reached inside the car, I'm going to shoot him.
Yep.
I think he had his mind made up by the time he got around to the driver's side of the car. If he goes in the car, I have permission to shoot him.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. You're spot on. I mean, in today's climate, it's funny we talk about climate change. Climate change really hasn't changed but so much in terms of social activism and social norms, right? Especially as we speak domestically within America, a lot of things have been complacent and stagnant. And unfortunately, a lot of things get swept under the rug. That's why I appreciate platforms like this and minds like yours, Kelvin, minds like Bridget's, and minds like our viewers, because we're forward thinking, but we're also realistic. We hope for the best, we pray for the best, but Lord God, I don't know, which is what you said earlier really sums it up, because it literally is I don't know. Because we literally have, man, there's so much to talk about, to unpack, because there's how we were brought here. There's how this nation was founded and built. There's so many historical relevant happenings that perpetuate today's reality. And it's in perpetuity. It's continuous, man. And it brings you to a point of question. Like, we're like, why? Or a lot of us, or some of us, are problem solvers. So we're solutions oriented. So
Yeah.
we try to assess and understand things, but it's hard when it's illogical
Right.
and it's inhumane. Like it's hard to really grasp inhumane and illogical acts and words. And that's what we see a lot of times today. And it really is disheartening, discouraging, difficult. There's some four-letter words I could use for it.
Yeah. Right.
But to your
Right.
question earlier, Kelvin, it's like, well, what do you do when you have your children? I think a lot of our millennial generation, Generation X and on, have pondered, hey, in today's society, should we?
Do we even want to have kids?
Do we
Yeah.
want to have
Yeah.
kids? One,
Yeah.
because of the economy that our elders have left us and brought us to. And then because a lot of people can't afford kids or more than
Right.
one or more than two. And then on the other side, it's the social climate. Like it's real out here. And again, it's inhumane and illogical. So how can one literally assess it and come up with viable solutions to something that just does not make sense? And how do we comfortably bring our children into that? Because I mean, I've had to struggle with my children, 7 and 4, on letting them in on certain things. You know, I try to avoid the news, but I also want to be aware of my surroundings and environment. And I don't want to raise children that are unaware of reality, but I also want to shield them from certain things too.
Yeah.
So I've been struggling with that. As much as I want to bless and give God to my children and pass down generational wealth, as we talk about economic empowerment and how that can potentially be the root or is the root solution for a lot of these issues. But in terms of beyond God and beyond economic empowerment and generational wealth, there are unfortunate realities for people of color, Black people, brown people, minorities, that unfortunately, because of tunnel vision, a lot of people, like the majority and others, do not see it. They don't get it. They either just are dismissing it, ignoring it, overtly understanding, and quite frankly, I'll end with this point. How can we change things that people don't want to change when we're not represented at the table? We don't have enough representation at the seats that have power making decision making power. So we can ponder all we want to. We can boycott all we want to. But until we bring our demands appropriately so to legislation and policy and make that effective and actionable, and to make sure that we can monitor it and keep somebody holding it accountable, enforcement. If we're not at the table, how are we going to impact change? How are we going to enact change if we're not at the table?
I think that's a good point. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot. I feel like something is going to change soon. I just don't know if it'll be as I don't know if it'll be as, I guess, impactful as we would hope. The thing is, there's not a whole lot of people that want to be police officers, right? So even if you tried to fire everybody and hire a bunch of new police officers, like that wouldn't work. So, it's like you said, it's there's no viable solution. Like you can't lie. What's the word I'm looking for? You can't reason with somebody who's unreasonable. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and then you don't know, it's not like people are just overtly out there saying, hey, I'm a cop that's scared of the people I'm sworn to protect and serve. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they got a sign on their forehead that say, oh, I can't say that online. And they got a sign on their head that says, "I'm not the most courageous person in the world." You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to wear a shirt that says, "I don't really care about you." You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to kind of pick those people out. And quite frankly, I don't know what solutions we have, to be honest with you. The only thing that I can really think about is I got to make sure that I hug my daughters extra tight and kiss them every single day that I got to leave the house, because I don't know if I'm going to get pulled over for any strange, reason and never come back home. You know what I'm saying? And I want them to know that daddy loved them. You know what I'm saying?
But I think too, like, here's the deal. I think it's not being labeled or called what it actually is. And I put it on my story today, which is terrorism.
Domestic terrorism.
These are acts of terrorism.
Yep.
And when there are acts of terrorism, right, in many countries, oftentimes who intervenes?
America.
The government, right? The government passes legislation and does things in order to intervene on behalf of those who are being terrorized.
Yes.
So it goes back to the fact that it is not our responsibility per se, right, to find the solution 1,000% to the problem, right? Yes, we should be at the table to help solve the problem. There are supposed to be people, things, processes, policies in place that protect us as the people. But we the people, we the Black people, are being terrorized. This is an act of terrorism on some levels. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, and it may at some point, I don't know, but I don't care. There are factions within these particular organizations, right? These law enforcement organizations, there are factions throughout the whole thing that are literally complicit, right, to what's going on. At this point, it's terrorism. And with terrorism, there are groups, there are factions that are sympathetic to certain parts of that particular group. So let's say you're in, I don't know, you're in Iraq and it's the police force, but let's use a police force in another country, for example. Let's not even say Iraq. Let's just say in another country. Potentially, you have maybe part of that group who believes in one thing, part of that group who believes in another thing. What ends up happening? They end up splitting. One becomes some type of militia, right? Trying to defend whatever it is they think they should be defending, and the other one maybe stays if it's tied to the government. The other one stays as part of the government, to support whatever's happening in the government. We are in a space literally of civil unrest.
Yeah.
And so in a third world country, the way that the turn of events that would happen in order for things to shift may happen quicker than they're happening here, but they're also happening here, right? You're seeing people fight back differently. You're seeing, the Black Lives Matter, and you're seeing the movement become a stronger movement. You're seeing, folks not like, we're not laying down and taking it anymore. You're seeing different things pop up. But here's the deal. It has not been labeled or accepted as what it actually is.
Yeah. Purposely.
And I think that there is a call. I said this at the end of the Obama administration. There is a call out there somewhere in certain groups, white supremacist groups, KKK, whatever you want to say, that are infiltrating these particular places, because they're everywhere, but there are certain places that they really are. And there's calls out there. And in my mind, if I had to think of what the call sounded like, the call sounds something like "the time is now." The call sounds something like, hit them where it hurts, or whatever. Like, I watched a whole, and I'm almost done, but I watched a whole YouTube video about, or this video about these white cops that were searching somebody, and they roughed them up or something, but they were planning weed and stuff. Like, you could see on their body cams, they were planning things, and they're looking at each other like, "You good? You good?" Like, "Yeah, I can't find anything. I can't find anything." But like, "Are you good?" Like, oh yeah, there's something right here. I found it. Literally showing them dropping it out of there, plant it into the car. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, it is like, I'm not saying all police, but there is a us against them type mentality. There is, you know, and again, in my mind, there's something, but I think there's levels and there's factions. So to me, there needs to be some type of internal investigation of what is actually going on. Because nobody wants to talk about the fact that no, we can't talk about. It's not. Everyone's not the same. Everyone who's a cop right now is not the same. They're not equal. Yeah. So you need to figure out who in the camp is the enemy, and you need to expel them. You need to get rid of them. But that's not happening. People aren't doing that. That's not, by and large, that's the work that's not happening. Like the reform piece of it, and at this point, like people like are killing people. Like we are dying. It's terrorism. I'm done. But it's terrorism. Terrorist act. Put them on the list. Baseball cards, all of that. Like
I see that. I just feel like a lot of them are cowards too. So some of them are terrorists. I can see that. I feel like a lot of them are they're just freaking cowards, man. They're cowards.
Sure.
In my mind, it's like, if I don't know the story, right? But what I heard was that he was fighting another gentleman and they came to break the fight up. Because the guy was already hostile, not towards the officer, but towards somebody else, and they were coming to break a fight up. The cop he already had fear in his blood, in his mind. He was already on fight or flight already, right? His way of taking flight was pulling the trigger. Because he was scared. He was scared. That's what I believe. He was scared, right? He was a coward. That's what I believe. And you know, I can see it being terrorism at the same time. But what can we do about that is my question.
I'm just saying when it's generally when terrorism is happening, when it's happening in other countries come help aid, like things that happen. Like, there's no plan because the government doesn't care. Because it pushes the agenda of whatever it is that the agenda is. Like we're kind of out here left flapping a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, and then one other thing, real quick. Then you have the protests where a man with a assault rifle, I think it was more than one, with an assault rifle, are coming to a protest about I believe it was about this particular event. Ended up shooting 2 people dead. You can fact check me, put it in the chat if I'm messing it up. I'm fine with that. But walking past law enforcement with an automatic assault rifle, terrorism. Like the white supremacists can come to a protest, shoot people, walk past the cops, and be like.
They arrested a 17-year-old kid. I couldn't tell from the name whether what his race was or anything like that. Did you guys hear anything else about that or no?
I posted about it. I saw it. Yeah.
I couldn't tell what his race was or anything about that. But
I mean, look, what's white? I don't know. Like, what is white? What does white mean? I don't know. But the 17-year-old man who should be charged as an adult for first-degree murder of 2 individuals and deadly assault on others that are wounded, who was not apprehended immediately by the police in Wisconsin. No, that's some bullshit. I'm sorry, viewers. I'm sorry. It's some bullshit. And Kelvin, I get you.
I'm just asking a question. I really don't know.
No, I got you. I'm going back to your point about where we're talking about domestic terrorism and like people being cowards. I think we have to label it both ways. You have cowards, yes, but you also have domestic terrorists that this has been a gene that has been passed down generationally in this country. And to Bridget's point, this has not been labeled as such. It's not domestic terrorism according to the federal government. It's not. They still, the Congress and House of Representatives was still having a bill on the floor for them to determine whether or not lynching is wrong.
Black Panthers was labeled as what? You know, I believe it was labeled as terrorism along those lines, right? Which allowed for then the government to take action to initiate things that basically, right? It can be done.
I think the difference is that the organization had a face and a name. No. I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is it's hard to label. You know, it's not like they're a part of one group claiming, like, for example, if they are claiming KKK or something like that, then it's easy to label a group as a domestic terrorist, but it's hard to label individuals, individuals domestic terrorists. But you can label the action domestic terrorism, right? And you can put a stiff punishment on those actions.
But do the research. But I think that's the point. My point is, if we don't know, we need to do the research. If you done the research to find out if a group is actually a group or actors are acting individually, then you don't know, right? Intel 1 says first find out who the enemy is, where they operate, who they talk to, if there's money involved, right? You have to. There has to be some type of invest. And I know I'm kind of getting off into, to me, where's the level of care and give a crap around investigating and finding out what actually is going on, so we can label it what it actually is, to create a plan to root it out. And I think things that can be immediately, but at this point, it's a problem.
But does it have a name?
But it should.
But
no, what I'm saying is there literally some secret network of individuals conspiring to kill people, or is it a bunch of cowards with guns out here killing people? You know what I'm saying?
So I don't think that matters, and I can tell you why. Because and this is respectfully said, right? Like I can't say how I know this, and I see one of my old coworkers a lot right now, but I can't say why I know this, and Bridget as well. But there are groups of people or organizations that do their due diligence on these type of instances that are reoccurring or recurring events. So we can't say that, we can talk about, is it labeled, is it this group or that group, or, what's the proportion of the activity, but let's just be real. I was gonna say call space, but I feel somebody told me recently that that's tied to some type of racist background and history as well. But there are groups literally that track this information. Like we speculate, right? We think, we don't know, and we want to be careful about how we speak. But at the end of the day, there are groups and organizations that do this regularly. They have the evidence.
Look, I'm not saying that there aren't groups who's looking for these things. I'm saying who gives a damn what the name of the freaking organization is. Like it's like when you but here's my point though. It's like when somebody goes in the church and shoots up a church, right? They're looking to be publicized. Even if they commit suicide, they know their face gonna be all over the news, right? So why give them the satisfaction? I don't give a damn what group you belong to. If you commit an act of domestic terrorism, since that's what we're labeling it tonight, right? If you commit that type of act, you get this stiff punishment, period, right?
Agreed.
Agreed.
That's what I'm saying. That's my whole point.
But what I'm saying
no, I'm just saying, but let me just finish this real quick. So my whole point is, I don't care what the name of the group or the organization is. If you are operating in some type of sophisticated network underneath the ground, then stay there. That's fine. We got all the groups to search you out that's fine. Just don't publicize their name and give them the satisfaction. Just deal with them in those moments and make an example out of them, like they make an example out of freaking Michael Vick for the Dogs. But there's people, you know, in the NFL beating their wives and all this other type of stuff, right? You're gonna make an example out of us, right? Not saying that killing dogs is right, but at the end of the day, you're gonna make an example out of black people, make an example out of these domestic terrorists. That, you know what I'm saying? Like, give people the same focus.
But that's the thing, they're not though. You're right, you're spot on, but they're not. No, I think you can attest to that too, Kelvin. They're not.
Right.
They're not doing it.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
The same thing. I think we're saying the same thing. In my opinion, to me, it's just a little bit of a different approach. Calvin, you're just like, I don't care what is going on in the background. You know, there needs to be stiff action. Things need to happen when something happens or prior to happening. Agreed, 1,000%. But in my opinion, I think things are going to keep happening until we accept the fact that it is a thing. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and people and assets and things that are looking at things in other countries. We in America spend time, you know what I'm saying? We in America spend time looking at things in other countries. We in America spend time looking at things that we care about in this country. There are agencies that look at things that are our interest. What agency deals with black people by law enforcement? I saw some map today, and I don't, you know, I guess we could fact check it or whatever, but how many police shootings that there's been over the past, you know what I'm saying? So who's tracking, right? And maybe at this point it's grassroots organizations. Shout out to all the grassroots organizations out there that are those who are involved, those who are out there protesting on the front lines, right? Like, but who, maybe right now, the only people tracking the data, who's tracking the data? Where does our data go? How many black people were killed, you know, this month by police officers? Who's tracking that data? They're not. Why? Things are more important right now. Republican National Convention, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's all I'm saying. I'm saying when something is a priority, you put assets toward it. This is very military speak. You put assets toward it, try to interdict, intervene, to, you know what I'm saying? You give resources to things that matter. You see that there are any resources that have been shifted and lifted to look at this particular issue. What we should, and this is Bridget's opinion, in my opinion, what we should understand is that they don't care. It's not a priority. They're willing to sit there and have the conversation with us and be an ally. Thank you, allies. Like, but we need more than allies. We need action. We need actors. We need people to do stuff. We need to know that we, as a people, we're not okay with this, and we're not going to let this continue. And by any means necessary, we're going to do what we need to do in order to do that. And until I see those actions going with the words, I don't want to see you kneeling. I don't want to know. Like, within your lane, within the realm of what you do, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing? And I this is, you know, like I said, I feel heartbroken and angry and frustrated and a whole bunch of other things. But what I know, at least from my own experience in just operations, is that if you don't see resources, analysts, data, you don't see people looking at it, right? It's not being looked at. And I think right now, the grassroots organizations are taking on that particular fight. Who else is taking on that fight with them? Who's partnering?
Nobody. Shit.
Nobody.
Yeah, nobody. Look, I get it. I understand. It's going to take some strategy, man. It's going to take some strategy, and unfortunately, the current government, the way it is set up right now, I don't see that I don't see like a strong solution. I don't see that coming anytime soon. especially not during an election year.
It's not coming.
You know what I'm saying? Nothing is actually going to change during an election year. It's too much on the line during an election year.
Isn't that crazy?
So
I almost feel like, real quick though, Derek, I almost feel like it's by design though. I feel like, you know, and I'm not one who like takes baths in conspiracy theories or anything like that. But when your president is quoted as saying, when asked, it seems like he's always surrounded by chaos. He's quoted as saying, "I am chaos." It makes you think what else is this guy capable of? Is he capable of planting people to do certain things throughout society to try to throw us off? Or just even wreak havoc before he knows he has to leave office. Like, it just, I don't know. I can't help but think that, you know, there's something that's happening behind the scenes that is, and this is all a part of a bigger plan. You get what I'm saying?
We are literally saying the same thing. Like,
yeah,
we are a synonym right now. Like 100%, 100%. Like, yeah.
My bad, Derek. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. Well, what I did want to speak to is a couple of comments that I saw as well. I know Chris said earlier.
I'm not even seeing the comments.
Oh yeah, this. So I shared the live on my page. So I think it's, you know, there's a separation between the live views. Yeah. But I know Chris Javis, another Hampton alum, he did say, you know, it's just exhausting.
It is.
And then one of my old colleagues and compadres said, status quo, although the nation is on fire, action is needed. That's definitely spot on. But and I think Chris responded to that saying, what kind of action? And that's kind of where we started this conversation. Like, we started talking about the climate, you know, in terms of over centuries, you know, there have been travesties and tragedies to not only the minority community, but the disenfranchised white community and others as well, and other minority groups. So those in power have their own protection. they quote unquote have their own protection force. In terms of protecting their own assets. Kelvin, I know we've talked about that too. I mean, right. when you're in power politically, financially, the way this country corporation, as I've said, coin is set up, to your point, Kelvin, it is that way. And, you know, there's them versus us, or the haves versus the have-nots. And, you know, this war is spiritual, physical, mental, and it is domestic. And what action is needed? And this is where we delved into the point of, Kelvin, you said, I don't know. I think I don't know really sums it up, because even though a lot of us are problem solvers and solutions oriented, a lot of this, again, is inhumane and illogical. So how do you solve it? And then how do you, to me, the best answer is we have to be strategic, like we have all said among this show, right? By any means. But in this direct episode too, talking about strategy. So what do we strategize about? I really think representation is really important, because again, I don't see, and this to your point, Kelvin, about the government, I think the government has functions to make effective change already. Like, which is why I don't think we need a complete overhaul of the federal government the government, whether it's at the federal, state, or local levels. We have a system in place.
They're not enforcing
it. Well, and that's the thing. It's the seats with power, with decision-making power. It's those people that are in those seats. I will kind of walk back to one of your early points in this show, Kelvin. You believe that there are more of the majority It's definitely in our generation that are more progressively thinking or progressive minded. In terms of, yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think I refuted you. Definitely not 100%, right? But I do have a little question on that, right? But at the end of the day, one of my coworkers told me today. They said, I do think white people care. My issue is caring has levels to it, because you can care silently in your seat. And it's not even just white people. It's all people. This is a humanity issue at the end of the day. Like you said, Kelvin, you saw our own people, our own demographic, what? Justifying inhumane actions.
Right.
So we have a humanity problem. Forget the race. We have a humanity issue. And it's permeated through the systems, right? The systems may be working like they were set out to be, or they may be broken. I will venture out to say both. But how can we change and enact the right change when we have the wrong people in these seats? We need representation we need diverse and different representation in the helm of these powerful decision-making seats.
That's the hardest. Go ahead, Bridget.
It's real quick. I was gonna say I had breakfast with a white guy today to talk about some business stuff, and we went into a conversation about some, what's been going on, and one of the things that he mentioned was just the fact that Black people, people of color, get into a position where they are at the table, what happens is it feels threatening to those that are there, right? So any shifts and changes, and this is him saying this, right? Any shifts and changes that we need to see, we know we need to evolve in a bunch of different areas. We know that it's time to change. We know it's time to relook at things and refigure them because of the way that our country looks, and but because it threatens the normalcy and the privilege and the power, whether perceived or real, of of white people, or white people in those particular stations, that threat in and of itself is enough to basically stop and stall any real change. So part of it is gonna take, for those who are in those particular places of power and or influence, right, as well as all the work that many of us are doing, because many of us are doing a lot of work. Again, I want to highlight, like, we are doing a lot, right? It's going to take for them to get tired, but oftentimes they're not willing to be tired enough for fear of losing whatever it is that they fear that they're losing.
Yeah. People they care, but they don't want to lose their position at the same time, so they sit silent, to your point there. With that being said, I don't know. It's hard to speak, man. It's just, again, how can you be reasonable with people who are unreasonable? You know what I'm saying? It's hard to try to find a solution for stupid, for cowardice, for ignorance, and when people, and again, I know a lot of good people who are not African American who will happily stand up and fight for and speak up for our causes. That's just me personally in my network. You know what I'm saying? I just know a lot of good people, you know what I mean? And they have spoken up. I see it, but I do understand that that's not everybody. And the reason why I bring that up is just, it goes back to, once you back like a possum You know, when I was in projects, we had possums in projects, right? You could chase a possum around for a mile if you wanted to, but then once that possum gets in the corner and it feels like it has nowhere else to go, it's going to turn around, it's going to hiss at you, the teeth is coming out, it's going to try to bite the heck out of you, right? That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like is happening right now. It's the domestic terrorists, right? It's their last stand. Their last stand. They're in the corner right now, and they have nowhere else to go because the country is becoming more and more and more progressive. Because the older people who lived through the civil rights movement and beyond and before, they're starting to die off. Like, just to be frank, you know what I'm saying? And they're making a whole lot of noise as they're going out, hoping that a lot of their offspring kind of carry on the tradition. But less and less of those people are willing to treat people inhumanely as their ancestors did. So that's why I say there's a lot more progressive, non-black people in this world than we realize. It's just that the ones who aren't, they're screaming a lot louder right now. But things, as we saw after the George Floyd murder, things are kind of starting to change. So there's a glimmer of hope in there. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, it's hard to be strategic about your approach to change when we keep getting killed.
Yeah.
Modern day lynchings keep happening. It's hard to be patient, be strategic, and say, okay, yeah, but we got this. We're working on it in the background. But nobody wants to hear that. I don't even want to hear myself say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, something's got to happen now. I feel like, I don't know. Go ahead, Bridget.
No, I was just saying I was reading a local story in Pittsburgh earlier today about a young a baby getting shot by a stray bullet in his crib. And non-related deeply, like on some level, to what we're talking about, right? That was a for somebody else, ended up going through the apartment wall, 2 walls, and hit the baby. One of the things, though, I should have never went to the comments. Never went to the comments. In the comments, right? Regardless of the situation, it's a humanity part of it says, regardless of what happened, that just lost their life to a stray bullet.
Right.
So the comments you see are normal. We need less guns. We need more, gun stuff like that. And then there's a comment that says, literally, we need more nooses. And I'm like, person's name is like Greg, like the first, last name, everything is there. Not even hiding. There's no hiding. Not hiding. They in the comments. The comment was still there. Who at the Post Gazette, who at the thing looks at the comments and deletes comments?
Right.
We have put ourselves in such a permissible state of like anything goes and everybody can say whatever they want and all this. No, everything doesn't go. Everything is not okay. People can't just say what they want.
Yeah. And if you do say something, guess what? There are potential consequences. So don't act as if there are no consequences to what you say.
I literally want to take my phone and throw it across the room because I'm just like, wow.
That's the hard part about it, because it's like, we talked about this before. It's like, you damned if you do, you damned if you don't. You go out and you get into one of those situations and you respond to protect yourself and your life and try to get back home to your family, and you wind up getting taken away from your family, right? They've locked us up for less. You know what I'm saying?
I'm even interested from whoever's on right now from a reflective state, or even drop something in the comments just about like, have you dealt with any situations, you know what I'm saying, over the past few months where people have been just emboldened to say things to you, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know I have, supermarket, and I was called lazy by a white man. I was told that I was lazy. And it was literally just to make me upset. And he did. And I cussed him out really loud in the in the produce aisle. Like, you gonna get what you asked for today, buddy. And he's like, see, this is what I mean. But it was like evil. Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like, I don't know. I put it in our private chat. It's like about the deep dark web. I feel like these people be on the web at night. You know what I'm saying? In these chat rooms. Like, yeah, I saw this and I today and you know what I'm saying? Oh, you did. You should have did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I play out so many scenarios of what it the our current administration has put a vial of people, you know, in this country in a space where they feel like they can literally say what they want with no consequence.
I mean, I can't speak directly, but I will say this: look at what leadership looks like in this nation. Leadership in terms of big business, leadership in terms of government at every level, leadership in the educational system. Leadership is not leading as best as they should. So the example is not the best that it can be. And what does that do? It has a lasting impact. It has a lasting impact and a great impact on the people. And we're seeing it. And so it's not just, and it's telling because it's not just the leadership and positions having an impact and influence on the people. It's, that these people that are in positions and leadership positions are parents or grandparents. So if we see it outwardly and publicly, what do you think's happened privately? Which makes me think about something. We definitely glean on solutions, right? I know this is a difficult topic. And to all the viewers, again, thank you for listening to us in terms of this subject today, in terms of the climate, because we had to pivot because we wanted to talk about the last two episodes. But definitely please go to www.bampodlive.com and see all of our episodes. The last two that we were going to recap were in terms of or speaking on business. It was the wrap up of our business series in terms of how to stay in business and legally protecting your business. There are a lot of gems there. Please look, please. Economic empowerment is important. Our community is important. And I know we had some comments as well on tonight's episode in terms of how we can go beyond the actual climate solutions and go towards what we were already working, which is economic empowerment and bringing our community back in. And I love that because that's what this show is all about. Kelvin and Bridget, we talk about that all the time. And we have some new episodes coming up too that'll also help you to move forward with that. But in terms of being solution oriented, I want to see how y'all feel about this. And if you have solutions, viable solutions for today's climate, please add those in the comment. We love interaction, but I want to pose some solutions and see what y'all's thoughts are. I think, as we talked about this nation becoming progressive, and we know that some people, some generations are being phased out, if you will, in various ways. I think it starts at home, and I'm gonna hit on at home in twofold. Yeah, twofold in terms of solutions. At home starts inwardly. Each individual. We've talked about this. Humanity's lost. People are inhumane now, desensitized, and I think it starts with yourself. Do you have self-love? What's your self-actualization and awareness? Do you have self-respect? If you don't have these things, how can you exude them out to the world? So it starts inwardly at home in yourself. Then it starts in your physical home, right? Your abode. If you have roommates, if you have family, meaning your spouse and children, how are you evolving? How are you leading your household? Do you have a diverse network and people around you? Whether we're talking about finances and economic empowerment, whether we're talking about education and history, whether we're talking about social
Look, Derek, like respectfully, bro, I feel you because I know where your heart is and I know where your head is and I know where you're going. But damn, like, how is me working on myself going to help me not get shot when I'm pulled over? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're 100% right. I feel like you're 100,000% right, bro. It's just, how do we stop these modern day public lynchings? You know what I'm saying? From happening. How do
Yeah.
we stop that? You know what I'm saying? Those are solutions that I want to know, and I don't have an answer for it, to be honest with you, bro. So you're a step ahead of me. At least you're finding some type of solution, but I don't have an answer for that. I'm still trying to figure that part out.
So yeah, that's why. No, that's I like the fact that you stopped me because the at home piece individually and in your household was one angle, right? But to your point, how can you change the external factors, right? Whether that's law enforcement, the legal system, the educational system, the government, big business. How can you change these things? Look at what happened today. The NBA, right? A lot of their teams, not postponed. They boycotted the the, the current the current state.
NBA postponed.
Yeah, the NBA postponed, but the players boycotted, right?
Yeah, boycotted.
media.
Hold on. We got you. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're gonna postpone this thing, okay?
Yeah. Oh, there's still money to be made.
Right.
You guys just need a minute.
But it's funny because we talk about social activism and global or business. What's that thing globally? Like, how are you? Businesses look at have a metric of like global citizenship, right, or national citizenship. So philanthropy and how you give back. I think big business impact is important too. We've seen people shift lately, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, in terms of how they fund different communities and different organizations. I think that's beautiful. I think intention is important, but it's beautiful. But when we talk about boycotting, is that a solution? And I like to dive into this. Is boycotting at a sports and entertainment level effective to make change, boots on the ground, policy legislatively? Like, is it really? Like, I understand that there are billionaires that are in ownership in sports and entertainment, right? And their dollars, because we have lobbyist systems that tie to pockets in local, state, and federal level government, right? But is that really the solution? And what's the next step?
Derek, that's a wonderful question. I don't believe it is. But I think it depends on who, right? There's an exception. I don't believe that boycotting sports events as consumers of the sport. I don't believe that's effective. I believe it's misplaced. Right? You should be reaching out instead of boycotting. You should be calling your reps and your senators. You know what I'm saying? And your governors and whoever else you need to call, and your state, your local officials. Get on the phone, hop on the phone, call them. Go boycott their office. That's where your attention should be directed. I believe the actual athletes is their prerogative, right? If they want to make a statement and they want to affect their own paychecks, especially since they're in the process of creating generational wealth for their families, right? I believe it's their prerogative if they want to boycott, their sports so that they can make a statement on their platform, right? But in order to get, I don't think a lot of owners in sports leagues. Let's come on, man. It's football and basketball, right? NFL and NBA. I don't think a lot of owners have political influence. I think there's certain ones like what's the guy's name who owns who was, I think, Seattle, who is part owner of or one of the co-founders of Microsoft or something like that, who started PayPal. Like somebody like him would have a whole lot of pull and a whole lot of political pull. You know what I mean? But so I think it just depends on who the owner is as to whether or not it's actually effective. But But yeah, I think generally speaking, it's misplaced.
I think I disagree.
Okay.
And the reason why I disagree is because I think all you have is your platform, right? If this is the platform that I have, that I can't exercise some type of dissension to what is going on, that I don't have a whole lot of control over. And I think, to your point, right? Like, I'm willing to take a hit on my paycheck to show, that this is what I believe in. We all the influence that sports has on a lot of other things, right? Like, and people and children and adults, and so I'm not saying that it's going to be the thing that tips the scale per se, but a whole bunch of drops in the bucket, or a whole bunch of pebbles in the pond could create a wave. You know what I'm saying? So I'm also okay with something that starts something, that potentially starts something else, that starts something else, that starts something else, for people saying that they're fed up and that they don't want to see this anymore. Because at some point, enough people care, or enough people do speak up, then there should be some type of reaction or change. Whether or not it's 1,000% connected, I think if you're thinking just like government to sports to this, maybe not, no, but influence is huge, and influence is a big thing.
Yeah.
And there may be some influence that particular, the teams have in their own cities that could potentially, something, like wherever, like it may not be a federal response, a more localized response.
Yeah.
And go ahead, boy.
Yeah. No, yeah. So I think it's another instance where we're actually agreeing, because all I'm saying is that it's the athlete's prerogative as to whether or not they want to boycott. But us trying to boycott the NBA or the NFL as consumers, I think, is misplaced. But if the athletes want to do it, then that's totally fine and up to them. Because
I missed it. Then I didn't get. I thought you were saying.
No, I agree with you though, because their influence in that's the only platform they have, that their influence. Like, what if, as a result of today and all the NBA teams pretty much saying, forget your playoffs, like there's something bigger at stake here, and walking out, like everybody in America decided to do the exact same thing to their jobs for the rest of the week.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. So yeah, I agree. That's the type of influence that could kind of make some look. You affect people's pockets, you get them to move.
Get them to move.
Like, one blackout day ain't gonna do nothing, because you ain't gonna do nothing but go spend that same money that you was going to spend yesterday tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would like do you want to black out a week? You want to black out a whole month where you just only spend money at certain types of businesses? Then that'll make a difference. You're hurting pockets, man. People will change their mind in 4 days. Like 3 days is like, okay, hold up. Like, I'm sweating. Like, 1 day is like, yeah, y'all gonna spend it tomorrow. You don't do it for 2 days. It's like, okay, what's going on here? What are you doing? Let's have a conversation. 3 days, like, okay, what are you doing to me? You gotta tell me. I gotta fix this. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we seriously take our money away and don't show up for work for 3, 4, 5 days, like a whole week, do a whole blackout week where nobody in America goes to work, I guarantee you some shit changes.
So this is where I agree and disagree, because I'm on the unpopular side of this, and I don't care what y'all and the viewers think. I'm going to stand out on my
real quick, Derek. There's a comment from Dave Johnny on your profile. It says, "Can I postpone my taxes payment until leadership step together?" Now I love that.
100%.
Yeah, no, that was spot on, because I definitely replied to that one. No, here's my problem with. This is what I agree with what you said, Kelvin. I think NBA players boycotting influence is not to government, in my mind. I think what it is to the people, because I think the regular people every day that work, what's going on in the pandemic right now? Essential jobs. That's what matters. You stop these essential jobs. That's what matters. These sports players don't. Excuse me. Let me say this right. That big business in sports and entertainment ain't stopping no show because those people that own are diversified. Those players are diversified or broke, right? Because we know that as well. So if they sacrifice, cool. Now, if they influence all of us, the regular American people, and that's all of us, not black, not white, all of us, to boycott our jobs, which affects what? Taxes, which affects small, mid, big size business, that revenue, that GDP, that's what will make the effect. I don't think boycotting a sport as a player will do it unless we also do it ourselves. Because at the end of the day, what do we need? We need what? Legislation and policy change. Boycotting as an athlete, I'll even talk to LeBron. LeBron has major influence. Him alone, like Kyrie Irving had already done this. He said he actually said to the players union, he said, "Look, we should not go into the bubble. We should not play at all." But they've had a lot of impact in talks in terms of being able to vocalize what's been going on. Now, boycotting, do they have the right? Yes. But I see the impact to what you said, Kelvin, as if we, the everyday Americans that are part of the working class, literally were to boycott work, that would be the effect. But we can't just boycott. That's the financial impact. We also need to demand appropriately that change to policy and legislation. So yes, we would get the attention by garnering the money, right? The financial.
We can force change.
Then we can force it.
We can force it. Do it for a week and tell them what change we want. If they don't do it, then we do it for 2 weeks the next time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So to your point, though, I get that they're like those NBA players are sacrificing, and I think it's baseball too. I saw some teams do that as well. They're sacrificing their own pay right now for the greater good, and I applaud that. But I just know by knowing the back channels of how the country works, federally, statewise, and locally, that's not going to do it itself. But if we all do what they're doing, then it will happen.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I agree. Yeah, I think what I think that. I mean, I think we all agree from that perspective, right? Like we want to, if the athletes are going to postpone, if they're going to protest, then that's fine. They're going to boycott, that's fine. We all hope that it really just influences people to kind of be more active, take a more active role in, seeing change and bringing back humanity to this country that we all love and care for.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Look, guess we'll end with some final thoughts, man. For me, it's just, I don't know, man. Honestly, I still don't know what solutions we can do. Maybe a huge walkout is a solution, right? Whether we can organize that, doubt it, but that could be a solution. But I just don't know. I'm at a loss right now. It's hard to speak about the situation just because it happened and it could happen to any one of us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Women included, Black women included, right? So it could happen to any one of us. And, it's kind of, again, you can't reason with somebody who's unreasonable, right? And I don't know. I got nothing in terms of solutions for this one, bro. I'm sorry. I'm open to ideas. So if anybody has some ideas, let me know. Until then, I'm gonna say my prayers, kiss my babies, tell everybody that I love and care for, that I love them, and give them their roses while they living. So Derek, Bridget, love you guys. Here are my digital roses to you guys. You know what I'm saying? And what are your final thoughts?
I'll go next. I think I'm with you that I don't really have any solutions to give, right? I kind of share some things that I think that should be happening on a more high level. And I think for me, what would be an indicator that somebody cared would be that there were resources, that there were people that were taking really hard looks at these things, calling it by name, making some changes, meetings, you know what I'm saying? Like there was some type of action around it. And I think until that happens, for me, there isn't, to me, there isn't a lot going on. I think I would say maybe not a solution, but at least an action. I think the grassroots organizations who are, continuing to keep the issues alive, and keeping us connected and keeping us informed. I think we need that, because if they don't do it, there wouldn't be anyone doing it. And they're extremely one-sided. And so I'm so appreciative of them right now. I'm so appreciative of even one of my best friends, Hamptonian, Precious Frazier as well, who's down in Atlanta, in the fight, passing out water to folks, just there. Like, I appreciate all y'all, right? Because we all have a different place in the sun. I think that's a maybe not a solution, but find out where it is that you fit. Like, what is your platform, right? All of us have a different platform in this particular time. And I think we got to maximize. We're in a space of, we have to figure out what we can do to maximize, and pull others along. And the last thing, one of the things that I'm not a solution, but again, a recommendation, is I'm to my family about, their voting plan. What's your plan A? What's your plan B? What's your plan C? So are you going to do a mail-in ballot? Are you going to actually mail it, or are you going to walk it down? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you going to do in order to, be on the right side of history, coming up? So I think that's another thing I know I can do personal, local, and immediate, is I can, do those types of things, with friends, family, and the community that I'm connected to.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, Kelvin. I don't know. But in this particular case, I don't want to just leave it at I don't know. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on understanding what my responsibility is, personally and outwardly. I'm going to do what I'm doing at my household to affect what needs to be affected within my household. I'm going to continue working in my immediate community. I'm going to continue this platform by any means.
Right.
I think this platform, with the content that we provide across many different subjects, is viable, and helpful. I think to piggyback off of Bridget's point, not only voting, because I saw some people comment about voting isn't necessarily the answer. And I think I agree there. It's not, because of people that we have in place or candidates that we have. However,
vote them out.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's different levels to that too. It's like, I think we need different candidates, which could include ourselves or others, right?
I'm not running for office.
I'll just put it out there, not just for us, but in general. I think we do have some like the grassroots element that you brought up, Bridget. There are people on the ground that have better solutions or are better humans than the people that we have in leadership positions today. That would benefit and behoove our country. So I think what I want to do is literally tell us that I want us to build ourselves, our communities, and our money. Economic empowerment is important, but I also want to personally meet with local, state, and federal. I want to go to federal level too. Like, as far as the three branches, talking to executive, legislative, judicial reps, I want to go do it. Like, I'm at that point. I literally want to. I literally want to talk to my local reps. I literally want to work with them to put it together. If I have to do it myself, I will do it. I want to work with state reps. I want to work with the federal reps at this point. And it doesn't have to be just me. I'm just speaking to what I want to do to affect change, because I'm tired. I'm tired.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, this has been another episode of By Any Means. We appreciate you guys for sticking with us. And commenting and keeping the conversation going. We release episodes every Monday or Tuesday, and we are live on Wednesdays. All right, come back and check us out. We got some great information for you. We just finished a entire series on Black businesses and what we can do to start our businesses and what we can do to own our own, what we can do to stay in business and protect our business, with the hopes that we can increase our economic buying power, economic influence, and get in position to make a lot of these changes that we want to see so we can stop these modern day lynchings. Okay. So go check us out. Go check out our previous episodes. Got a lot of great experts on there, and we got a lot of good episodes coming up. So join us next week as we come in and we talk about the education system. Okay. www.bandpodlive.com. This has been another episode. Thanks for watching. Peace.